Hello, I am Anna Green. I am 43 years old. I still have a pretty face and a fit body. I live in a big house with a window that overlooks life. I love sitting by this window, watching the world outside. Sometimes my camera was my companion. I usually saw and photographed the same scenes every day. People walking, cars moving, and children playing. At the end of each day before I went to sleep, I always talked to my husband Michael about what I saw through my window. Michael was often away, but when he came home in the evening, he was a good listener. He rarely discussed the stories I shared about what I saw from my window. My daughter Lily was beautiful and quiet. She rarely made me feel her presence in the house, as she liked to stay in her room most of the time. I felt so sad about it, but I couldn't do anything to get her out of her room. One day I began my usual morning by sitting at my window, but something was different. A new family had moved into the house across the street. Later I learned their names. The husband's name was David, his wife was Emily, and their son was Lucas. I felt curious about them. Their windows were always open, and I could see them clearly. Lucas's window was directly across from mine, so I could often watch him. They looked like a happy family. David always smiled, and Emily seemed very kind. Through the window I couldn't see their faces clearly. But one sunny afternoon I saw Lucas in the yard between our houses. He was standing alone, looking around quietly. He was tall and handsome, with dark hair and a calm expression. He looked about 18 years old. As he walked through the yard, he glanced up at my window, and for a moment our eyes met. I quickly looked away, feeling a little embarrassed. In the evening, when Michael came home, I talked to him a lot about the new family across the street. I told him how I wished our family could be as happy as theirs. As usual, he listened quietly until I finished. He didn't say much, but I noticed him raising an eyebrow when I mentioned Lucas several times. Then, with a gentle smile, he told me, "You should focus more on yourself, Anna. Take care of yourself." His words stayed with me, and I wondered if I was paying too much attention to them, especially Lucas. The next day, I was determined not to sit by the window again. I kept myself busy with house chores, trying to forget about the family across the street. While I was cleaning Lily's room and putting away her toys, I heard a soft knock on the door. I opened it and was surprised to see Lucas standing there, smiling politely. "Hi, I'm Lucas," he said, introducing himself. "My family just moved into the house across the street, and my mom was wondering if we could borrow some dishes." I invited him in and went to the kitchen to get what he needed. He stood quietly looking around the house. After I gave him the dishes, he thanked me with a warm smile and left. As I closed the door, I realized my heart was beating a little faster. The next morning, I was surprised to find Lucas's mother at my door. She held the dishes in her hands and smiled warmly. "Thank you so much for the dishes," she said sweetly, "but we didn't really need them after all." I invited her in, and she accepted with a kind smile. I brought some biscuits and made tea for us. We sat together and talked for a long time. She told me about their move and how they were settling in. She seemed friendly and easy to talk to. Before she left, she promised to visit again, and I felt glad to have made a new friend. A few days passed without me going near the window. I tried to focus on other things like checking Lily's room and organizing her things. Then I heard a familiar knock on the door. I hurried to open it and found Lucas standing there. I looked at him in surprise. With a shy smile, he said, "I missed seeing you the past few days." I invited him in, feeling a little confused. I brought him some Coke and cake, but he didn't seem interested. Suddenly, he leaned closer, trying to hug me. I pushed him away gently but firmly. "Why did you do that?" I asked, shocked. His eyes looked serious as he replied, "Because I love you." I couldn't believe what I heard. "Lucas, you're the same age as my daughter," I said, trying to understand his words. I felt uneasy and unsure what to do next. "You're the same age as my daughter." I repeated it again sadly, and I was confused. I didn't know what to say or what to do. While I stood frozen in shock, Lucas suddenly said, "You're living in a delusion." "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaky with confusion. "Your daughter and husband," he replied, his tone calm, almost too calm. I stepped back, my breath catching in my throat, unable to believe what I was hearing. My wide eyes filled with terror, as if I was silently begging him not to continue. "Your daughter and husband died years ago, Anna. Everyone knows they died in an accident. But you refuse to accept it." "I'm here to help you, Anna, because I love you." His words crashed over me like a violent storm. I couldn't process them, my mind struggling to keep up. Tears welled up in my eyes as I cried out, "You don't understand. They are my family. I love them so much. I care about you because you remind me of Lily. She was the same age as you. She didn't die." My heart ached so deeply that it felt like it might stop. The weight of the pain was too much to bear. My legs gave out and I collapsed to the floor, my body trembling with grief. After what Lucas said, I spent days in silence, avoiding the window and staying alone in the house. My heart felt heavy with confusion and sadness. I didn't know what was real anymore. One morning, as I sat quietly in my living room, there was another knock on the door. This time it wasn't Lucas. It was his mother, Emily. She sat beside me and spoke softly. "Anna, we've all been worried about you. I think it's time you talk to someone about your pain." Her words were gentle but firm. For the first time in years, I realized that maybe she was right. I had been holding on to the past for too long. My family, Michael and Lily, would always live in my heart, but it was time to face the truth and heal. With Emily's help, I decided to seek help and begin a journey of recovery. I started seeing a therapist, and slowly I began to understand my grief and find peace. Though I would never forget my family, I realized that it was okay to live in the present. Over time, Lucas came to realize that what he felt for me was not love. It was a mixture of sympathy and pity. He had heard my story from one of the neighbors, and he had seen me watching them from my window more than once. But instead of pushing me away, Lucas and his family opened their hearts to me. They welcomed me into their lives with kindness and understanding. Since that day, Lucas's family and I became like one family. We shared countless moments together, meals, celebrations, and quiet evenings filled with laughter and warmth. In their presence, I no longer felt the weight of loneliness. I felt like I was finally part of a family again. Though the pain of losing my husband and daughter would never truly leave me, I found peace in knowing that love, in its many forms, can heal even the deepest wounds. And for the first time in a long time, I looked out my window, not with sadness, but with hope. The world outside was still moving, people walking, cars driving, children playing. But this time, instead of just watching, I smiled and felt ready to be a part of life again.